For this warm-up, you're going to draw a single figure with all of these different measurements in it. So you're going to start with ABC that measures 180 degrees, which is a straight angle. So you have A, B is in the middle, and then C. And then you're going to build angles coming off of that picture for 2, 3, and 4. We are going to be working with rotations today, and most of these problems are in your workbook. You're going to need a straight edge, a protractor, and some tracing paper or transparency. I'm going to switch to the document camera so you can see as I do these different rotations exactly what that looks like with the materials that you're going to use. Okay, so for number 1, it just says draw and label the image of OP under a rotation around point O. But it doesn't give us a specific direction or a specific degree to rotate it. So we're just going to rotate as we wish. I am going to trace the figure on my tracing paper. Hopefully you can see that. I may even indicate that that's P, so when I rotate, I can identify where P ends up. To rotate around point O, we're going to put our pencil on point O and then turn our tracing paper. Again, it doesn't tell us which direction or which angle to rotate, so I'm going to go about 90 degrees. And then I'm going to pick up my pencil and I'm going to trace where P is now. You can either poke a hole through your tracing paper or just push really hard to indicate where that should be. Then when you pick it up, you can kind of see the indentation from before. So I'm going to put my P prime here, and I'm going to use my straight edge to make sure that I have connected O to P prime accurately. And then you can also label O as O prime as well, because now it's part of the new figure also. In number 2, it says, for problems 2 and 3, draw and label the image of the figure under the given rotation around point O. And now it is specific. It says 90 degrees clockwise. So to do this, we're going to start by putting a line through our center of rotation. And since it says rotate around O, we're going to put a straight line through O. Then it tells us 90 degrees clockwise. So I'm going to create a mark for 90 degrees. So in my protractor, this little cross is where the center should be placed. So I'm going to put O on there and make sure that my line is lined up with the line I drew. Then I'm going to put a mark at 90 and just sketch a little line in there. Now we're going to use this later to help us figure out where to stop our rotation. Alright, so I am making sure to trace the figure, and I need to make sure that O also fits on my tracing paper so that I can rotate all at the same time. So tracing N and M. And then we're going to trace the line through O, and it says clockwise, so we're turning the way that the clock turns. Now this is going to tell me, this little line through O is going to tell me when to stop. I want to turn it clockwise until that line lines up with that 90-degree angle that I drew. So we're rotating that original line through O until it lines up with the 90-degree angle that we drew. And now holding it steady, I'm going to push for N and M. This is now N prime and M prime, and connect it with a straight edge. Oops, I went a little bit past it. All right, for number 3, we are going 180 degrees counterclockwise. So that is going to go the opposite direction of the clock. Again, we're going to start by drawing a line through O. The nice thing about a 180-degree angle is it's just a straight angle. So we're just going to use this and turn it until it matches up with the line on the other side. All right, so we are tracing our figure on our tracing paper. This is E and F. And again, we're tracing through O. We're rotating counterclockwise, so the opposite direction that the clock hands turn. And we're going to stop when this line matches up. You can't see because my hand's in the way. Okay, let's try that again. We're going to turn, place your figure on O, or your pencil on O, and we're going to turn so that this line lines up over here to get a 180-degree rotation. And then we can stop. And now we're going to draw E, F, and figure D, or point D, using those indentations in our paper. And then make sure our labels are correct. This should be E prime. This one is F prime and D prime. Then we are connecting with a straight edge to make our figure look like it did originally. Here our problem says, the third rigid motion is called a rotation, and it uses this kind of format. And then we put the number of degrees and the direction, so like a 90-degree clockwise rotation around, and then we would claim where our center is. So this one looks like it was rotated around O, maps a figure to its image. So we're going to go back to that original problem that we did on number 1. And we're going to describe how we rotated. I rotated clockwise, and it was approximately 90 degrees. We didn't measure, so we're going to say a 90-degree rotation clockwise. A 90-degree clockwise rotation, and we rotated around center O, maps a figure to its image. So it maps the figure to its new version. Except I was supposed to write that down here. Okay. For number 4, consider parallelogram DEFG and point O. Draw and label the image of a parallelogram DEFG under a 90 degrees counterclockwise rotation around point O. So to begin, we're always going to start by drawing a line through our center of rotation. That's our guide. It wants a 90-degree rotation, so we're going to create a 90-degree angle mark. Again, lining up the center of your protractor with the point and creating a mark at the correct angle. Now on our tracing paper, we are going to trace the figure and the line through O. We are rotating counterclockwise, so the opposite direction the clock, until this line matches up with the mark. And then we will stop. Connect it with the straight edge. Part B says, what is the length of D prime G prime? Well, DG was 4.5 units, so D prime G prime is also 4.5 units. And explain your reasoning. Rigid motion preserves or maintains the distance between points. Then it asks what the measure of angle F prime would be. F was 116 degrees, so F prime is also 116 degrees. Again, rotations or rigid motions preserve angle measures. A here says, draw and label the image of triangle AOB under a 45-degree clockwise rotation around point O. Oops. All right. So we already have a line through O. We can continue that just as a guide. Then we need to create a 45-degree rotation or 45-degree angle. On my protractor, there are two 45s. There's one over here, and there is one right here in between 40 and 50. Now, since I'm trying to turn clockwise, I want to move clockwise on my protractor. So I'm going to start over here and head to 45. Now I'm going to create a line connecting my point with my 45-degree mark. Just a faint one. Okay, so now taking our tracing paper, we are going to draw our figure. And we're going to draw our line through O. Now we are rotating clockwise, so we're turning the way that the clock turns, and we're going to stop when this line matches up with our 45-degree angle. I have A prime here and B prime here. This is now O and O prime. And we will connect our points. What is the length of A prime, B prime? It is also 3 units. And what is the measure of angle O prime, A prime, B prime? That is this angle here. It is 78.7. Determine whether each statement is true or false. In problem 2, Mn is parallel to M prime N prime. Now let's pull out our pages. Here is Mn and M prime N prime. Those are not parallel. In problem 2, they are the same length. If I were to measure it, this is about 3 centimeters here and about 3 centimeters there. So they are the same length, that is true. In problem 3, DEF is greater than the measure of DEF. These angles should be the exact same. If I were to measure, it looks like it's about 55 degrees here and about 55 degrees there. So that is false. In problem 4, DE is the same length as EF. DE is the same length as E prime F prime. Well, DE is this one here, and E prime F prime is this one here. If I were to measure, this one's about 3 centimeters, but this one is under 2 centimeters, so that is false. DE prime is parallel to F prime G prime. DE prime and F prime G prime. Those are parallel. It came from a parallelogram. In problem 4, OF is the same length as OF prime. So if we were to connect O to F and O to F prime, are those distances the same? This one appears to be about 1.8, pretty close to 2 centimeters. And over here, it appears to be the same. In problem 5, the measure of angle A prime, O prime, B prime is equal to AOB. We're talking about this angle here. Are those the same? This one appears to be about 20. And this one appears to be about 20 as well. A little bit over 20. But that is true. In problem 5, OB is the same length as OB prime. So from here to here and here to here. That appears to be about 5 centimeters. And so does that one. So that is true. Seven, analyze the rectangles in the table to identify the rigid motion that maps rectangle ABC onto its image. I see B and B prime, C and C prime are close together. I see it went AB over here, but BA over here. So to me, this appears to be a reflection. It is flipped over this line in the middle. Now on this one, B is on the top, but B prime is on the bottom. C was on the bottom, and C prime is on the top. So this one appears to be a rotation. If I take just a quick sketch, A, B, C, D, and I rotate it, then C would be on the top, D on the top, A and B on the bottom. So this one appears to be a rotation. Please make sure your warm-up is finished and your workbook is filled in with all of these rotations from today's lesson.